All right, welcome. I wanted to take a quick look at using the sum function, which is probably the most useful function in Spreadsheet. What I've got here, I've got a little spreadsheet full of some school store sales data, $50 worth of hats in July, $75 worth of t-shirts. I've got a totals row on the bottom. I've got a totals column in column E on the side here, and I want to get some totals. So one thing that sometimes I'll see students do is they'll add these numbers up using a calculator. So I've got 50 plus 75 plus 20 plus 27.50. And I get 172.50, and then I'll just have them type that value here, right? So that's one way that you can do it, but that's really kind of missing the point of spreadsheets completely. So you should never be pulling out a calculator when you have a spreadsheet. A spreadsheet really is a big wonderful calculator. So if you wanted to do it that long way, you could do it like this. For this column, I could just type the equal sign, and that basically says start calculating. So I could type 85 plus 175 plus 100 plus 55. And that's really the same thing as pulling out a calculator and adding those numbers together. You hit enter when you're done, and I get 415. So that's the sum of those numbers. The way that you really should do this is with the sum function. And sometimes you'll have an icon on your toolbar for that. It looks like the Greek letter sigma. If you don't have it, you might need to go to more like I do here and go to functions. And it's going to suggest some really common functions, and sum is the top one. So if you click sum, it brings up that sum function, equals sum, and then it's parentheses, and it's waiting for your waiting for what you want to add the value of. Right now, what I'm going to do while it's waiting is I'm going to highlight these four cells, D4, D5, D6, and D7. That shows up as being the sum of D4 through D7. If I hit enter, that gives me the total of these numbers, 175, 325, 525, and 105 is 1130. I can do the same thing over here. If I want to do the total here, I can use my sum function. While it's waiting, I can highlight the three numbers that I want to add together to get that total, hit enter. Then Google Sheets is suggesting an autofill for me. It thinks I might want to do that same thing for the rest of those cells below it. And in this case, I do. So I'm going to check that. That's not always going to be the case, but here it's a good idea. So this gives me all my totals, adds them up nice and quick. But I want to look back at this value right here. What I did for this value was I pulled out a calculator and I added 50 and 75 and 20 and 27.50. Let's say that something changes, like my hats for July. Let's say that I missed a receipt and I actually sold $60 worth of hats. If I were to change that to a 60, this number doesn't change, and that's not the right total anymore. So I'd have to go through, get my calculator back out, add those up again. I'd have to type 182.50 because that's my correct value. This one, I added them up manually, but I used the equal sign and I did that. I'd still get the same problem. Let's say my hats value for August was not 85, let's say it was 75. This number is still 415, and that's wrong now. So I could go through and I could do this again. This number plus, I could say equals 75 plus 175 plus 100 plus 55. And then I get 405, and that's the right number. This one, however, I use the sum function for, D4 through D7 equals the sum of D4 through D7. So if a number above this changes, let's say that this 525 should really only be 500. As soon as I change that and hit enter, this number updates automatically because it's adding up whatever values happen to be in these cells. So if the values that are in those cells changes, then that result is also going to change. So really you should be using that sum function whenever you want to add a range of numbers. Don't add them on a calculator and put the number in there. Even if you use Excel's capabilities of doing math, you wouldn't want to do that because it doesn't update for you automatically. So use that sum function. It comes in really handy, and it does update automatically because a lot of times data will change and you want your results to change with it. I hope this is helpful. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. Thanks.